before we get started with today's episode, it's very chastity focused. So obviously this is a chastity device. Just kidding. It's actually Boris the Boarworm. Oh my God. He wanted to do something for Halloween, you guys. Okay, let it happen. Also, happy Halloween. Are you gonna be a trick, a treat, a good witch, or a bad? Oh, we can't swear in the first minute, right? Or a bad snitch. Sup, you kinky cuties, I'm Amp, and today we are going to get into some more news, stories, and kink cultural related conundrums that have happened within the last month within our community. Welcome back to Kink Quickies. This is episode 2 of Kink Quickies, and I'd like to do this every month, so if you enjoy this episode, leave a like down below. That is the only trick that I'm going to ask you to just put up with me, please. Just like the video. YouTube thinks that we're like inappropriate and we're posting pornography. I swear this is just fun edumacation. And on today's episode of Kink Quickies, we are going to get into all the co-opting of the kink community that has happened, especially this last month, but over the last couple of years, because they say that imitation is the highest form of flattery, but sometimes the concept, style, mannerisms, or even words that we use in our daily language are something that is co-opted or even appropriated from a culture we might not even understand or know founded those terms. Because I think that imitation, co-opting, and even appropriation does have an ethical and appropriate time and place where we are respectful and we show the homage that something has, the history of a word. I think a good example of this concept is looking at the RuPaulisms and the words we find in drag culture that has now become the lexicon of straight white women who are referencing gay men, who are referencing black women. And with the rise of social media, subcultures and marginalized communities that have their own sayings have become a bit more mainstream. And while today's topic is talking about the goods and the bads of co-opting from the kink community, I think it's important to talk about when it's good and when it's bad and where that line is. Like when I see my girlfriends talking about topping their boyfriends and I quickly ask, oh, you guys are into pegging? And she immediately goes, oh God, no, I like being on top. I like to, oh my, that's a crash and burn when it comes to co-opting a term. But when straight people use these terms as a sign of allyship and used correctly with respect, it can be seen as humorous, fun, and playful. And that's good in my book. Sometimes appropriating and co-opting a term from a subculture or a marginalized community is done in good faith. It's referential, it doesn't do harm, and actually plays with the culture in an uplifting way. It matches the vibe. And other times, straight bros use terms coined by the kink community about a decade ago in order to start a new trend in 2024 to talk about locking it in, and don't actually understand that Locktober is a term that refers to locking your dick in a chastity device for a month. Not going to the gym.
Delusion. Convince yourself.
Today's first story is straight bros trying to take the term Locktober.
Let's go. It's Locktober. You know what that means.
Today's September 31st. Tomorrow starts Locktober.
Here's exactly how you can crush all the goals you didn't accomplish this year in the last 90 days.
Locktober challenge starts soon.
In 2 hours, it's gonna be Locktober.
Year is almost over with only 3 months left.
Locktober.
Oh, that hurts. So let's go down the rabbit hole that was the co-opting of Locktober by the straight boys of TikTok, because it is a wild ride of ups, downs, education, and just full on the audacity. Just a lot of straight audacity. If you did not know, Locktober is a trend that started in 2015. It was coined on a BDSM blog, and it was used to refer to people who lock up their dicks in chastity devices for an entire month as a challenge to keep yourself on edge, to heighten the senses of sexual arousal, but also help you to focus on other parts of your life and take that sexy, horny brain and put it to other good uses. So what's especially funny is when people were starting to get ready for Locktober in the chastity realm, I was getting messages, pings, and tags on TikToks like this.
Locktober challenge starts soon. What is Locktober? What do I want you to do? Okay, no processed food for 30 days. I mean no heavily processed food. I mean no bullshit. What do I mean? I mean no fast food. I mean no soda. I mean no bullshit, bro. You need to eat well. Second thing I want you to do is hit your protein goal.
I'm all for hitting my protein goal during Locktober. If you need a guy, I know 1, 2, 3, maybe even 5 guys. Nuts included. They have great protein.
Okay, what is the next thing I want you to do? I want you to read one book this month, bro. Just one book, any book. I don't really care what it is.
Maybe read like the history of chastity play. I don't know. You poor sweet innocent himbo. Oh, the trend I think meant well, but it was the lack of self-awareness and also educating a term before using it that was their downfall. I just want to know if this guy Googled the term at all. Like, did you know Google's free? Did you know Google is a free thing you can use on your phone?
Locktober is a time of reflection and solace. You were just able to enjoy your summer, but now the winter arc begins. It's time to get to work. No gooning, gym, 6 a.m. every morning, alarm.
Like, they get it. They get it, right? They use terms like gooning. They can't be that stupid.
Let's go. It's Locktober. You know what that means. It's time to lock in for the whole month. Okay, and you're not locked in if you're not taking creatine. We got creatine right here.
Like the comments, it's just, what's your preferred chastity design? I like the pink ones. They really make my balls pop. Come on, guys.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
So when people started educating them, sometimes kindly, but other times asking them what chastity device they're using, maybe even where they got theirs, how long they've been locked up, how small they want their nub to get. And it was in this moment they knew they fucked up.
I guess we're switching the name, bro. We're not calling it Locktober anymore. So I think Colin's the freaky one, bro, because, you know, I make this Locktober video, you know, it's like, you know, dope, everyone's stoked, you know, gonna lock in, get healthy for October.
It's like he understands that the term was bad, although the shame, the freaky shame.
Colin's the freaky one, bro.
But it appears that he's learned what Locktober is actually about.
And, you know, all that. And then people start telling me, oh my God, if you look up, you know, Locktober, all this crazy stuff comes up. I guess it's like dudes putting a lock device. It's
chastity.
It's just bad stuff, man. Go read the Bible, go lift some weights.
It just so happens I have a wonderful handy Bible here, so we can just double check what the Jesus would say about. Oh. I'm realizing now I might not know what an actual Bible looks like.
So we're just gonna call it Locked in October. So I'm sorry, guys, I didn't know this. I don't know how Colin Myers knew this. He knew like right away, and he made that video. It's just kind of like strange when you really think about it. Like, how would you know that? I didn't know about this, you know? Did you know about this? I didn't know. So, you know, my bad. But it still stands that you need to get locked in for October. Get locked in, dude. It is October. Trust me. This is your time to dial in and create these good habits.
And I thought we were good. I thought we had squared away. Everything's fine. You guys realized your wrongdoings. You even like were like, oh, let's change it to Locked in October. It's still a terrible name, but it was like these little tidbits here of where he's like, oh, I didn't know what this is a word? Google is free. Some of them even kind of laughed about the joke, quite honestly.
Tell me you understand Locktober is a kink thing. Guys, I may have made a little bit of a mistake on that last video there. I didn't know Locktober had any other meaning. I thought, you know, Locktober, lock in, October, you know, lock in like in the gym, not what y'all little freaks be doing, but just wanted to clear that up.
Like, what really kills me is when you're on these TikToks, if you go to the little like AI search bar at the top, it says, what's Locktober actually about? Even TikTok goes out on a limb to say, actually, that's not what Locktober's about. Like, it tells you that it's about chastity. And even the publication them started ragging on the straight men who are posting about Locktober. Who's gonna tell him it's a chastity kink? It was funny. We were all collectively laughing because it was just a silly mix-up where the straight boys did not know what they were talking about. Though specifically calls out the creator, Brendan Rowe from Santa Cruz Medicinals, this guy, for being the head himbo in charge, and it should have just stopped there. Now remember, Mr. Cruzy went on the record to say, hey, sorry about that, got the term wrong, but what really killed me, the whiplash of it all.
We're going to talk about an important article that was written about me and others about Locktober. So this dude wrote this article, I had to bleep out some stuff here, you know, but he said...
It is wild to me that he had to blur out the term kink, which is the only word that's missing here. TikTok, how are you repurposing and co-opting a sex term?
He said straight men are posting about Locktober. Who's gonna tell them this thing? And like we made a bunch of like we all started posting about Locktober. We're like, it's Lock.
We made a bunch of he knows what he's doing. So the fact that we're all ragging, I mean, It smells fishy.
We're like, it's Locktober, lock in, you know, be healthy. And then we made videos joking because, like, we, you know, Colin made the first video that I saw, was like, bro, this has, like, some other meaning. It's weird. And the challenge is super positive. As you see here, Locktober starts now, I said. And the genesis of the trend, I want you to eat no processed food, hit your protein goal, read a book, and work out like a demon. What I find very weird about the dude that wrote this article, and just, like, the tone of this article in general, saying, oh, there's a lot of striking parallels between the two communities. I'll tell you why I think that's goofy.
They didn't like being sexualized for using a term that is meant to be sexual. And so some of them switched gears, others got really sex shamey and claimed that the Kinksters were the gross, perverse ones.
I think that's goofy, first of all, is that this is TikTok, bro. Like, the reason I didn't make a bunch of videos, like, about the Locktober joke is because, like, there's a lot of people under the age of 18 on here, bro. And, like, this is the United States of America. You can do whatever you want. If you want to do that, go for it, bro. Like, you know, it's the USA, baby. Like, freedom.
There's so much going on here. First of all, United States, America, great. If you don't want to make jokes about Locktober because there's kids on this platform and you don't want to therefore popularize a sexual term for children on a platform that might have children as your audience, you know exactly what you're doing. You're getting ragged on by the internet. Respectfully,
I think that's goofy.
You're dumb. This is dumb. This is so tone deaf. And the fact that you're trying to take it back is just weird. It's corny.
I think it's weird to talk a bunch about. And like push this narrative. Like, you can see this dude, it seems the straights have gotten hold of another trend they don't quite understand. No, we understand what we were talking about. It's about getting in shape. It's about eating good. It's about reading a book. It's about some basic stuff. Yeah, we understand what we were talking about. So he said, oh, well, maybe a lot of these people, these straight boys posting, you know, their Locktober updates on their health and wellness, maybe they have some device. Again, this is the United States of America. If you're a grown adult and you want to do that, like, I will fight for your right to be different, to be, you know, whatever. That's what this country stands for. But to just, like, I don't know, combine the TikTok community, which is a very young community, like, and you're, like, saying that you want to, like, push these things together, I'm not about that. I think that's weird and goofy. And when people showed me this article, I was like, oh, that's funny. And I read it and I was like, what, why? So no, we're taking back the word Locktober. It's about being healthy. It's about eating unprocessed food. It's about locking the fuck in and getting healthy. So, you know, do your thing, bro, but don't try to combine these two communities. It's crazy.
The first thing we've said that I agree on, do your own thing, but stop trying to combine these communities, especially when there is a history of sexual energy behind one of them and a history of almost getting it right, being educated, and then saying, nah, I'm just gonna use it anyway. It's fun, it's mine now. Yes, this is America. You're allowed to do things, but misunderstandings and misinformation still exists in America. And fake news is still fake news. Sir, sit down, shut up, take your protein, and understand that this term is not for you. My final point on the straight bros, besides, oh, you poor things, is going to be the straight boys in this story are not only co-opting a term and causing confusion and trying to steal something that's sexual and market it to their young underage audience. That's the problem here. Stop marketing kink sex things to kids. That's bad. That's weird. Am I thinking too hard about this? Probably, but I find it really interesting because where the internet and history overlap, especially when it comes to kink stuff, is always a very strange little gray area. In the grand scheme, I don't think these guys are trying to cause any harm, and I don't think they are causing harm to the community, but I feel like they're gonna cause some harm for themselves from the headache and the anger that came from some of them and how they reacted to people joking about them. Especially when those people were just responding in a literal way when you start using sex terms.
And yeah, locking it in at the gym might be one way to get yourself more focused, but have you thought about using today's sponsor, Kink 3D?
Which wants to remind you that they have just come out with a brand new cage called the Viper. Which seems appropriate because we're talking about the co-opting of Locktober so much today in the episode. Locktober. I'm here to remind you that Kink 3D, one of our favorite chastity provocateurs, is not only giving you aqua blue, but a fusion pink, and the brand new Viper. Kink 3D wants to remind you that they have original designs, tons of sizes, and you can mix and match all their heads and cages to not only get different color options, but different sizes that fit you perfectly. And they are made here in the USA. With the new Kink Viper just launching, it is a more enclosed design, shows less of what's going on in there, but easy to keep on and still very easy to clean. And while it might still be Locktober when this video goes up, that does not mean you cannot be getting ready for No Nut November, or maybe even finding a new way to lock it in your life and focus that sexual energy somewhere else. Was that a subtle segue? got this sponsor on lock. We've locked them in. Don't unlock them. They still got a few days left.
Personally, as someone who's tried out the Viper, I think that it does what Kink 3D has always done, giving you a nice soft feeling cage that fits just about any size. But with the more enclosed feel, it actually does wear a little bit easier on myself. The Viper is shaped a little bit differently than the Cobra, but they both still feel good. And if you have a ring from your Cobra but would like to upgrade to this new head size, you can do that because, again, they what? Mix and match! We're here to remind you that now might be the perfect time to try out Kink 3D, get yourself a Cobra cage in whatever color, or maybe the new Viper.
So go to kink3d.com/watt
to get a free Nether Nudger when you buy a Kink 3D Cobra or Viper cage chastity kit.
And hey, if you'd like to follow not only some Locktober content, but get into some chastity play more regularly, Kink 3D Designs Online on Twitter also has a Reddit page where people not only swap and share stories. Kink 3D is not only a huge proponent and supporter of the community, but actively involved in making sure all of our locked up chastity provocateurs are able to get devices that fit them nicely and aren't going to break the bank. So thank you again, Kink 3D, for being today's sponsor. Check them out in the link down below, and you can get your own Nether Nudger, which is a godsend and lovely little keychain tool. Which is where we get into the next story that also is a little corny. As we learned today, all it takes is a simple Google term to see that Locktober is a sexual thing. And it's one thing to have just a few normal, everyday people trying to use the term that they don't understand. I mean, they didn't Google it, it's fine. But like, it'd be especially corny if some sort of like large brand started to try to market and use the term Locktober. Oh no. Oh no.
Seekest thou the road to all that's foul and fair?
Our next story is covering Marvel and Disney trying to use the term Locktober. And while I'm less mad about this one, I just thought it was hilarious. It was Locktober all along. And besides having just a very catchy theme song that they keep referencing in so many episodes, when I saw Agatha All Along was going to have a very openly queer character in the form of the actor Joe Locke, who was quite literally in the casting, like the end credits, casted as teen, you can imagine my surprise when Marvel tweeted out, "It's Joe Locktober." Oh, Disney, please. And I went down the road, down the rabbit hole on this one. I was cackling, I was screaming, honestly, I'm enjoying Agatha all along, so I wasn't so much mad about this, but I did laugh my ass off. Because behind every good marketing account, every good corporate business Twitter is a gay that is running the show. I say that as someone who used to do the social media marketing and management for a very high-end, like, front-facing company that made lots and lots of money. Whether you know it or not, we are behind the scenes and we are tweeting out stuff for tons of companies. But Marvel, Disney, please do not call it Locktober and then refer to the character who is casted as Teen. That is his name in the show, Teen. It's another one of those, stop co-opting kink things and making it palatable or related to kids, or even, I guess, teens in that regard. But also the moment. Thinking about if you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. While these trends are kind of silly, and yes, I'm taking them very seriously for the art of YouTube content, and also to have an open dialogue, I'm curious what you guys think about the Locktober co-opting. Is it funny? Is it silly? Or are some of these people just not using Google? Again, which is free. You can Google terms very easily, actually. Did you know that? You guys, did you know that? How the fuck did you get in here? What is your name? Teen? What kind of name is that? And while brands using things like sex and kink is sometimes a red flag, that does bring us to our next story, which is all about the Hanky code. It's Hanky code time, y'all. Now here on What's a Safe Word, we've done a few videos on Hanky code, from guessing Hanky codes to Hanky code games to even cruising as an art form, which is the ancient history of essentially looking at someone and being like, hey, you want to go home and do some And it was generally done by using hankies to flag certain colors that stood for a kind of sexual act or thing that you were into. And every color had some sort of different meaning. My favorite's gray. You know what that is? You're a friend of Dorothy. Like, cruising for us in the queer community was a way in which we could survive, thrive, and find each other in spaces, and hopefully find love in hopeless places. Flagging is another one of those cases where, if you know, you know. And this one This one was from a little while back, but it's still relevant because the next couple stories are all about hankies and flagging. And this first hanky story, I want to just be a little palate cleanser before we get into some that might have gotten a little darker than expected. And this one took place in Florida's friendliest hometown, The Villages, where the older generation of straight people, or at least old people, were using loofahs on their golf carts and other cars to flag and signal different kinds of sexual acts or group activities they were looking for.
Oh no, that sums up the year perfectly. Hurts to be quarantined, feeling worthlessly and personally.
And this one is just a lovely palate cleanser because I love the idea of old people going to stores and buying loofahs just to put them on their cars to essentially flag to each other that they want sexy fun times. This is a little different than other flagging code recreations because it's old people looking for sex and they're flagging with something that's not a hanky or a bandana. White for novices and beginners, purple for voyeurs and people who like to watch, pink for soft swapping. I guess that's probably like a partner swap sort of situation. Is this like more of a swinging thing maybe? Blue is lowest level of full swap. Yellow is mid-level swap. Black full swap. And teal not for CBT, but for bisexual. And I appreciate that the old people in Florida are at least thinking of the bisexuals. In the grand scheme of flagging, this one was a fun recreation. And while co-opted, doesn't make me mad because it's an evolution. It's doing something different. And it's evolving the code past hankies. There's no hanky scene here. It's not going to be something that's confusing. Unfortunately, the next couple hanky codes are where we draw the line and we're a little confused if it's satire, a recreation, or co-opting to the point of major confusion. Because part 2 of this hanky story revolves around fun satirical redesigns of something and colors that do exist into something different that is not what people thought it was. The picnic hanky code. The hanky code for people on Instagram that were recreating something and they meant for it to be haha hee hee satire, but it got taken seriously by some people and caused a lot of confusion. If you're cruising at a bar and you happen to be wearing a hanky of some kind, that hanky might actually have a color preference, meaning you're a top or a bottom in some sort of sexual practice. If you're wearing a color on the left side, that means that you are the top in said situation. If you're wearing it on the right, that means you're a bottom. Lots of colors mean a specific thing. For instance, red usually means fisting, yellow usually means water sports, gray is bondage, black is S&M, and orange usually refers to anytime, anywhere, any place. You're down for everything. So, when a post came across my Twitter/X feed and it said, I'm going to become the Joker, and it had a few images of a reimagining of the hanky code for what appeared to be some sort of like low-key queer event or like a picnic. And at the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is cute, this is fun, this is interesting. And then immediately I said, oh, wait, no, orange, left, I'll make you soup, right? I'll eat your soup. Oh, honey, if you're wearing orange, you're gonna get something eaten and it's not gonna be soup. Food for thought. And speaking of food for thought, I do have some soup in the kitchen if you'd like. Oh, you're not into, well, you're flagging orange though. Oh, sorry, you're right, that is a yellow. In the right lighting, it's confusing, right? No soup for you. And this is where a co-opting goes wrong because this post went viral and was causing confusion. Some people understood that it was satire, but taken out of context because the post originally came from Instagram, where the post quite literally says satirical post ahead. Even that's kind of better than what ended up happening on Twitter, where people started talking about how maybe if you're flagging brown, you're actually wanting brownies at the picnic, to the point of people actually said, I was recently informed about the meaning of brown bandanas I usually rock, and I was like, what? I want it to mean gardening party at my place on the right and fresh baked brownies when it's worn on the left. Again, when we talk about co-opting, I'm not against people having fun. Satire is still allowed. But when the satire loses context, it gets reposted and shared, put into Discords or even Reddit groups, and people start having conversations that turn less aha hee hee and more, oh wait, this is a thing? Is this something I should be doing? Oh my God, I'm a younger queer person. I love brownies. I love soup. I love, what was the white one? Pillowcase in the back pocket. I love naps. I had an actual organizer of a kink and leather event messaged me asking if we needed to add these new hanky codes that were becoming popular on Twitter onto some imagery for an event that was coming out this year. Now, I personally just find it annoying when people try to recreate kink stuff, but when that recreated kink stuff starts causing actual confusion, might put people in actual harm, might actually cause this like breeding ground for, might actually cause a potluck of problems and opinions that cause disgruntled conversations, then we're getting into a territory where I think we might need to stop recreating things and let old traditions stay as they are. And if we'd like to evolve them, maybe choose a different method in which we are flagging something and not using handkerchiefs. Because I eventually found the original Instagram account, and the artists themselves do these little pamphlets all the time where they recreate things like pride flags that don't exist, or where they take on different art projects and reimaginings and pamphlets and zines. I'm all for that. I'm all here for the artistic process and the integrity that comes with drawing something and being creative. But the hanky code is not something that doesn't exist anymore. It's something that's alive, it's well, and it is still used in bar culture and any sort of kink scene that you're out and about in, whether it's a convention or a munch or just some sort of social. Imagine if they just started recreating every single color. Well, this just means I like mustard on my hot dog. Well, this means I'm usually just wearing a ghillie suit to the picnic. And red at the picnic is for the guy that's cooking all the meat, because otherwise it would be very red inside, much like me. Oh, see, and that's where it gets too sexual. So that was Exhibit A of a redesign that I didn't love.
And we'll come back to the Instagram hanky code, but I'd like to parallel that with one other version of a redesign that happened on TikTok not too long ago.
It's a weird slippery slope where if we let people start designing stuff, we get Exhibit B, hanky code for kids, something that came out a few years ago, and oh god, it was scary. And it was literally by an underage queer kid that just thought they were doing right, and oh god, it was so concerning, and it had like hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok. Anyway, this is what that looked like. They did a few videos where they talked about how the hanky code was something old, it wasn't used anymore, but dear god, I do not want to see children flagging brown if they're agender and neutral gender, because that might not, they might get into some trouble of the musical variety, shoo-ba-da-bop-bop-ba-dee-bop-beep-bop. I'm sorry for that scat joke. But this is where the redesigning and the co-opting of something that is meant to be sexual, that does have a history, and when we don't teach the history, or we don't talk about it, at least in a candid way, is when kids come along and they start popularizing a redesign of an adult kink thing that they shouldn't be getting into. And they're naming it the handkerchief code still, saying wearing a handkerchief bandana tied on backpacks, belt loops around the neck, or on a waist signifies that you are a safe individual to approach. This will get kids in actual trouble if we popularize this. Please stop. It meant to give queer kids of different identities a way in which they could flag to each other and find each other. Thankfully, for the underage redesign, people called in, let this creator know, and commented left and right, telling them, please do not popularize this, take this down. This is not what you think it is. You are misinformed here. The hanky code is still being used. And I'd like to parallel that as well by saying that the original story that we were talking about, the hanky codes on Instagram, the picnic hanky codes, was another one of those cases where calling in actually helped to diffuse a situation that was getting vastly out of hand. I ended up actually calling in to the original creator and artist of the reimagined zine hanky codes. And I just sent them a little DM that essentially said, hey, you don't know me. I love your art. I am a queer educator of the kink variety. And this post is not only causing confusion within the actual kink community, but it's causing some really dark and very, not only ageist, but get off my lawn conversations from some of the old guard people. And some of the younger queers were like, you guys are old, get off our lawns and let us evolve and change and make something new and interesting that leaves you guys in the past. I didn't ask them to take it down, but we did have a nice back and forth that was really respectful. And within that conversation, the artist was quite literally like, hey, I just want to say, starting out, thank you for having this conversation and coming from a place of kindness. There are hundreds of comments on my post that are very hateful, and you are the only one that has called in. And like, on one hand, I was like, well, oh, that's really sweet. I'm glad that we're having a really nice dialogue. But on the other hand, my God, you guys, can we not have like a really open space to just be kind to each other and inform without getting hateful? Like the comments on that Instagram post were scary. Some people were just like, oh, this is the worst possible thing. Tender queers must be stopped. And that's where it got muddy. Maybe that's what flagging brown at a picnic means. You like to sit in the mud.
And as a little update as I'm editing this, the artist on Instagram did end up taking down their Hanky code redesign. Again, not because I asked them to, but props to them for taking that down and just wanting to avoid any further anger or hateful comments. But that is where the Instagram part of this episode comes to an end.
So here's a question for the comments. At what point is satire harmful? And when do you step in? Is it when you see that it's causing confusion and recreating a sex code thing in a way that kids could find it and it's more sanitized? Or do you only step in when an underage person starts to try to use the flagging code and they have a really unfortunate, very awkward encounter that might include conversations of sex with someone that is older? Like, where do you step in? Because like, I'm over here like, I would rather we just set people up for success and do educating and informing and not have any miscommunications. The Hanky code itself was actually something that was co-opted from the straights, if we really are getting down to the nitty-gritty, where flagging has roots within the gold rush as well as square dancing back in the day, where men and women would both wear a hanky on a different side of the body to flag what position within the dance they were doing. And if there was an influx of numbers of genders, because of course there's only two genders, some of the men might have taken the woman's roles by wearing a hanky on that side. Now, the queer community in the 1970s saw that, and they took it and started using keys to distinguish different sides they were flagging. And even the Bob Dameron Guide back in the day, if you know what the Bob Dameron Guide is, it was kind of like this travel brochure of gay bars and saunas and clubs. It actually printed one of the first handkerchief codes seen here. And some of those colors are still used today, while others are not. And the Instagramification of the Hanky code, as well as the TikTokification of the Hanky code, were both co-ops that just missed the mark a bit. And these recreations caused so much discourse and discussion within the community. And I think that's a good thing. I was messaging the old guard in my community and the new guard and asking them what they thought on it. And if I was thinking too hard. I didn't want to be mean to people. I wanted to make sure, even if I was calling in, that I was being mindful and communicating my intent properly. And I want to call out in the education of talking about the Hanky code that there are some problematic flags on the Hanky code. When we talk about evolving the Hanky code, I think that means evolving it to where we take some of those problematic colors and fetishization of certain aspects of people in a problematic way. We take those off the Hanky code. We stop using those, but we keep the colors from this initial list that we have from the 70s and we say, oh, black for heavy SM, I'm still down for that. Like, lots of these still get used to this day and are still referential. That's a proper evolution of the Hanky code. And that is your news on Hanky code co-opting and reasons why I think we need to be more mindful about the context of how we talk about certain things like flagging. It started some amazing conversations about evolution versus recreating versus moving forward and leaving some old guard ideals in the past. It made kink leaders talk about the evolution of our community in a mindful way. And we talked about how evolving doesn't mean we have to forget the ancient scriptures, but that we can still reference them from time to time without doing any dark magic. Joe, go back to Agatha. Wrong, get out of here. Your story was earlier. So while co-opting has happened quite a bit this last month, I do want to end on a high note and say that co-opting, while it has problems at times, starts conversations. It provides opportunities to educate and helps us to highlight parts of our cultures and marginalized communities in a way that I hope we're able to further educate and inform people on the history that exists within our wonderful, colorful community. But we should still honor those histories when we make something derivative, or when we move forward as a culture and a kink community. I'm curious about what you think about today's stories and quickies. Did any of them really poke you in the giggle box? Maybe they make you think about how we should change some of our cultural norms? And hey, if you enjoyed today's quirky kinky news, I would like to do this more on a regular basis. I'd love to do a once a month kind of talking about kink stories throughout the month, but that also comes with you guys just keeping me up to date with all the kinky happenings. I stay informed through our wonderful community, which also exists in our Discord. So if you're not part of our Discord, we actually have a current events tab in there where I'm scouring and I'm reading all your posts, but I'm also learning and informing myself on many things that are happening within our community. So thank you to you guys for not only watching, but keeping me up to date. We also have a Patreon online where you can support us because YouTube generally dings most of our videos and we don't make money on advertising. And please make sure you're following us on YouTube, or at least enjoying our content, as long as you're not trying to copy everything we do. because that's very corny. Much like today's safe word, flattery, because that will get you everywhere. Thank you guys again for watching, and we will see you all next time. Bye. Again, I thought that this was still satire the first time I saw it. Satire is still allowed on the internet. You see those egg straining videos. This one I've been cracking up. Like, this isn't harmful. This is just funny. This is one of those if you know, you know moments.
On the stage in my heels, it's where I belong down at the Pink Pony Club.
I mean,